The emotional aftermath of a miscarriage often remains hidden, shrouded in silence. Yet the pain is real, the grief is profound, and the healing process is a long journey. Such is the story of Laine Edathikunnel. At 31, Laine experienced 2 pregnancy losses within a span of 6 months. The first was an unseen, silent tragedy, termed a missed miscarriage. Despite the embryo no longer being viable, her body did not naturally expel it, necessitating a manual vacuum aspiration. The toll this took on Laine was not merely physical. The unseen emotional impact was immense. Like an echo in a deserted hall, feelings of guilt, self-blame and shame reverberated within her. These are common emotions associated with miscarriage, yet they are rarely discussed or acknowledged. The journey following a miscarriage is one of healing, both physical and emotional. It is a path often walked alone, in silence, with the weight of unspoken grief pressing heavily on the shoulders. The loss of a pregnancy is not just about the loss of a potential life, it is about the loss of dreams, plans, and a part of oneself. Laine's story is not unique, yet it is uniquely hers. It is a narrative shared by many, yet experienced differently by each individual. The common thread weaving through each of these stories is the profound emotional impact that miscarriages have, an impact that extends beyond the individual to their partner, their family, and their community. It is crucial to shed light on this hidden emotional toll, to acknowledge the pain, the grief, and the healing journey, to provide support, both emotionally and practically, to those navigating this difficult path, to break the silence and let those affected know they are not alone. The emotional toll of a miscarriage is a heavy burden to bear, often carried alone and in silence. It is time we shed light on this issue. The financial impact of a miscarriage is a less discussed yet significant aspect of the experience. It can indeed add to the emotional stress and prolong the grieving process. Let's take a moment to understand the story of Laine Edathikunnel. At the tender age of 31, she experienced 2 pregnancy losses within 6 months. The first was a missed miscarriage, where her body did not realize the embryo was no longer viable. To remove the non-viable embryo, she underwent a manual vacuum aspiration procedure. This was not just an emotional setback, but also a financial one. Laine paid around $1,700 for her first miscarriage and over $2,000 for her second. Now imagine the emotional toll of such losses and then add the burden of these unexpected expenses. It's a double whammy that can exacerbate the grieving process, making it even more challenging to move forward. Now, let's consider another story, that of Amanda, a 27-year-old who also experienced a miscarriage. She paid $258 out of pocket for her miscarriage-related medical expenses. While this amount may seem considerably lower than Laine's, it's important to remember that every penny counts when you're dealing with the emotional and physical aftermath of a miscarriage. The cost of a miscarriage is influenced by various factors. These can range from the gestational age of the pregnancy and the type of medical care required to the extent of insurance coverage and even geographic location. This financial burden, often unexpected, becomes yet another hurdle to cross in an already challenging journey. Both Laine and Amanda plan to continue trying to conceive, but it's clear that the financial stress of pregnancy loss is a significant concern, adding another layer of complexity to an already emotionally charged situation. The financial burden of a miscarriage is a significant concern, often an unexpected one, compounding the emotional pain of the loss. Pregnancy loss is not just a physical or emotional trauma, it's also a financial struggle that many women and their partners face. Let's take a closer look at 2 particular experiences, those of Laine and Amanda. Laine Edathikunnel, at the age of 31, had to endure the hardship of 2 miscarriages within a span of 6 months. Each of these losses brought with them not just an emotional burden, but also a significant financial one. For her first miscarriage, Laine paid around $1,700, and for her second, the cost rose to over $2,000. Similarly, Amanda, at 27, had to part with $258 from her pocket for her miscarriage-related medical expenses. Both women, despite their losses, plan to continue their journey towards motherhood. But the financial implications of these losses weigh heavily on them, adding another layer to their emotional distress. Now, one might ask, why is this financial aspect significant? Because it feels unfair, unjust even, to have to pay for the emotional pain caused by miscarriage. It's like adding insult to injury. These women are already dealing with feelings of guilt, shame, and self-blame. The added financial burden only compounds their grief. Societal expectations and pressures further add to this sense of unfairness. There's a prevalent notion that the pain of miscarriage is something to be borne in silence, that it's a private matter. But is it fair to expect women to shoulder this burden, both emotional and financial, alone? The cost of pregnancy loss varies depending on several factors such as gestational age, medical care required, insurance coverage, and location. But regardless of the specifics, the reality remains that the financial strain of miscarriage is an often overlooked aspect of the grieving process. The financial and emotional costs of miscarriage are intertwined, creating a cycle of stress and grief that is hard to break. It's a cycle that needs to be acknowledged, understood, and most importantly, addressed. The journey through miscarriage is a difficult one, made more challenging by the lack of awareness and support. It's a path that too many find themselves navigating in solitude, shouldering the weight of not just emotional distress, but also financial burdens. This narrative needs to change. Our society needs to foster a culture where these conversations can be had openly, where the stigma surrounding miscarriage is replaced with empathy and understanding. We need to recognize that the process of healing from a miscarriage goes beyond the physical. It's an emotional journey that requires time, patience, and most importantly, support. We must also acknowledge that the financial strain of miscarriage is real and significant. It's an aspect that is often overlooked, yet it can exacerbate the grieving process. As a society, we need to advocate for better insurance coverage and more resources to assist those dealing with the financial implications of a miscarriage. Moreover, we need to create a system that provides emotional support to those in need. This could be through mental health resources, counseling services, or support groups. These platforms can provide a safe space for individuals to share their experiences, find solace in the stories of others, and realize that they are not alone. Education plays a crucial role in this process. By increasing awareness about the realities of miscarriage, we can dispel myths, rectify misconceptions, and foster a more supportive environment. It's about time we talked about miscarriage not as a taboo, but as a life event that affects many. And let's not forget the importance of self-care during this time. Encouraging those who have experienced a miscarriage to prioritize their well-being, to allow themselves to grieve, to seek help when needed, is critical. It's time we recognize the emotional and financial toll of miscarriage and work collectively to provide the support and understanding needed to navigate this difficult journey. The stories of Laine and Amanda are not unique. They are shared by many who have experienced miscarriage. It's a journey that's often navigated in silence, carrying not only the weight of emotional grief, but also the strain of unexpected financial costs. The feelings of shame, guilt, and self-blame are common, yet are seldom discussed openly. And the financial implications, varying from hundreds to thousands of dollars, can add an additional layer of stress to an already painful experience. It's time we shed light on these hidden aspects of miscarriage. Let's strive for a world where understanding and support are readily available, where the emotional toll is acknowledged openly and without judgment, where the financial burden does not exacerbate the grieving process. We can advocate for better resources, more comprehensive insurance coverage, and a greater emphasis on mental health support during this difficult time. The call to action is clear. We need to break the silence, foster understanding, and ensure that those facing miscarriage are not alone in their journey. Let us remember, no one should have to bear the burden of miscarriage alone. It's time we stand together and make a change.